Hey, what's going on, Nailed It Nation? I'm excited to bring you this slightly different episode here on the Nailed It Show. This is actually an interview that I did a couple of years ago that we are revisiting because this individual has become one of the more prominent leaders in the roofing industry and has built one of the biggest roofing companies in the country in just a few short years. So many of you might know Kirt Linington or know of him of Linear Roofing. They're based in Texas and now they have locations throughout the country. They have grown significantly due to some of the things that we're going to go through in the episode today that Kirt is going to generously share with us. Now, this was an episode where I do most of my interviews virtually here in my studio in New Jersey. I had reached out to Kirt and I said, hey, I'd love to have you on the show. Your story is very interesting. He's like, yeah, that's awesome, but I'm not a huge fan of the virtual. Let me know next time you're in Dallas. And a couple months later, I was down in Dallas. I hit him up and he's like, yep, come by. Super gracious, super generous dude. Laid back for someone that's running such a big empire at this point. But really opened up his office to me. We sat down, we got to go through kind of Kirt's journey growing up in South Africa, getting into LA fitness and the fitness industry here in the United States, and then kind of accidentally getting into roofing, doing roofing part-time on the side for a couple of years before the light bulb went off and he saw the massive opportunity in this industry and partnered up with a couple of his buddies from the fitness industry to build this massive machine of a company. So this has been one of our more popular interviews of all time because we get a front row seat into Kirt's mindset, right? Based on leadership, based on building their team, which at the time of this recording was over 100 people just in Texas alone. I would venture by now they're at several hundred people. They've grown their company significantly in multiple states. How they support their teams, how they build their teams, how they focus on mindset, how they focus on personal development, how they focus on attracting the right people to join their team, and how they have a big vision that people are really bought into inside the company. So I'm very excited to be able to bring this interview to you, me in Kirt Linington's office, where he really just opens up an open book and shares so much of what has made him such a tremendous leader.
So we started in 2015 and we started with three of us. Okay. For the record, I was 42 at the time. So I started door knocking at 42 years old.
Did you?
Right. So, for all those folks out there that, think that door knocking is for the birds, I saw the opportunity and just went for it. I was actually executive vice president of sales for a large company. Right. And anyway, so we've grown and we've been building our thought process here in Texas. And there's been quite a few storms like San Antonio and those places over the years where people have all rushed out and opened up an office. And then, it's like I've always said, hey, until you become a household name, right, there's really no reason to go anywhere else, right? So I feel like, we're at about 120 guys now in DFW. So I feel like we've sort of pushed the envelope a little bit. It's maybe even a little too many. So time to expand, time to take the footprint a little further out. So we actually got licensed in Colorado just before COVID hit. Okay. And then we were like, let's not do that, right?
Yeah, pretty shut down, I think, in Colorado.
It did, yeah. And it was a good timing. So we put that on hold. So we should be going there pretty soon. We're licensed in Louisiana. We did some work out there. We didn't chase that. I didn't think it was a good idea. Okay. We did some work out in... Charles, you mean? Yeah. We did some work out in Lafayette, right? Which was actually hail work. Right. So we didn't actually go chase the destruction, right? I had my own thoughts on that economy in itself and the destruction and if it's insurance deals, where that money's truly going to go, and how would your collections be, and how long would you have to wait for your money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we didn't really chase that. And that's never been our model, So I'm just mean what you say what you mean, nothing more, nothing less, right? So likewise, when we operate, how can I chase storms? And I know this is just my opinion, but how can I chase storms and truly service warranties if I'm not there, right? So that's why it's never been the model to just chase, get a local number, do that whole game. I know there's a lot of good guys out there that make a lot of money doing that. That's just never been what we wanted to chase, right? When COVID hit, we were at about 50 guys. I had a conference call with leadership and I said, hey, this is not going to beat us. Because I don't know if you know, in Texas, door knocking was shut down.
Well, I think the whole country for a little while at least, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't pay attention to the rest, but...
And that's a big part of your business, of course.
It is, yeah. And so I had a conference call. I said, we're going to dominate this thing, right? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to hire everyone we know that is in sales that can't go to work because of COVID. Because every single one of those people have a modern day Rolodex of people that they know, right? Which means we don't need to knock doors. We can just jump on everyone's roof that we know.
Right.
And what we could do is create an opportunity for people that are sitting home to earn some money as opposed to sitting at home, right? And if and when the country opens back up, they can go back to their regular job. I'm okay with it.
Right.
We give them, it becomes a win-win. It's a platform for them to create some revenue while they're not working and feed their family. And then if they want to go back to their job when it's over with, they can. I don't think I know of one person that went back.
Really?
Yeah. And we basically doubled our size last year through COVID. We doubled our revenue last year and we doubled our size, which actually puts us in a position to double our revenue again this year.
Awesome.
And we've doubled revenue last 3 years in a row. So that's where we're at, right?
That's some good offense there.
Yeah.
It's like you're not going to let external circumstances dictate what's going on.
Not at all.
That's
a little more detailed for some company owners out there. I was so paranoid because I think Wells Fargo had expected like mortgage defaults to be like, I can't remember, like 100 million or something. And I think it landed up being like 756 million or something in defaults in like a very short period of time. And my math's probably way off, but either way, it was some exorbitant number.
right.
And it got me really worried about our collections on the back end. Right? Give that final payment to Linear Roofing or feed my family.
Yeah.
Right? We all went into this panic initially, right? We were worried about it. So I even raised our overhead on all jobs for a 90-day window because I was concerned of collections.
Yeah.
And I said, and I pulled the team into the office and I said, you guys decide. If this is about longevity in everyone's careers, right? We're not going to collect it and keep it. Meaning we're not going to collect it and spend it.
Right.
It's just a reserve just in case X amount of dollars can't be collected. Right. So we got to the 60-day mark and I canned it. Collections were okay. Everything was fine. And then I actually created an incentive program to give that back to my people.
Okay.
Right. So I didn't just take it. Right. And that's what we did.
That's why they're still with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm sure like most businesses in the last 24 months, it's been somewhat scary. I think the beauty for everyone out there is this was considered a essential business.
Yeah.
Right. So we were extremely blessed to be in that position, but also not buckle down, but double up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely grateful for that because there's businesses like restaurants and gyms that were told they could not operate, so your hands are kind of tied. You know, of course, you can get creative with takeout and delivery and things like that, but that's tough. I feel for those businesses.
The cool part is we took all these guys that had been in these 9-to-5 jobs making X amount of dollars for an extended period of time. You know, I have some pretty cool success stories like finance managers at car dealerships and these managers and those managers that are still with me today that didn't have work at that time. I've even got their wives sending me private messages saying, thank you so much, my husband is back, right? Because they used to live They used to live in those jobs, and they never see their family and kids.
Right.
And maybe they made okay money, but now they're making more money and having a better quality life, right? And that's really what we're trying to do, right? Give people the freedom to truly enjoy their life and not live to pay for their life.
Right. That's a win-win right there.
It is. It's huge.
You win at work, succeed at life.
Even if you made the same money, right, and you've got far more time on your hands. Yep. Now, it's a tricky subject for me because I talk to people a lot about, money should not dictate your daily actions. Mm-hmm. Whether you got $1,000 in the bank or $10 million in the bank, you still wake up and put in a good day's work. Yep. So I still preach that regardless of how much money you're making, mm-hmm, right? It's not about the money, right? It's about being the best you can be, mm-hmm, right? And if you focus on that, then the money will come. But either way, some really good success stories through COVID and hiring and getting people, back to enjoying quality of life.
Awesome. Coming up next, we're going to dive into Kirt's background, his 20 plus years in the fitness industry here in North America, going into how he started in residential roofing. They tried out commercial roofing, learned a few hard lessons along the way, as we all do, and how they just kept on staying the course and showing up and doing the right thing day after day. Now, successful leaders like Kirt don't just come out of nowhere and build massive companies. They understand leadership. They understand the importance of surrounding yourself in communities of like-minded people that can get together and look at a common vision and work together. Now, over the past 10 years of running my own company and surrounding myself with an amazing team and amazing clients, we've seen the power of being in communities with like-minded people to compress time and to learn and to level up your leadership. And so what we do here at Contractor Dynamics is we built a 12-month marketing training and business coaching program where we work with companies from startups to $100 million companies and everywhere in between to help them build out powerful marketing machines inside their company. And along with that, we also provide business and leadership coaching to our contractors in a community format so that people can level up together and build out their leadership and build out their teams and achieve the vision that they have for their companies. I myself have a business coach. I'm a member of a coaching program, of a mastermind program where I get on a plane 4 times a year and go meet up with like-minded people. So this whole concept of getting out of your own way, of getting into new environments with different people who can challenge your thinking, who can unlock new levels of thinking, has been transformational for me personally, for our business, and for so many other companies that I know, including Kirt at Linear Roofing. So if you want to learn more about that, head on over to contractordynamics.com, our website, where you can learn more about that unique community that we have built for marketing managers and growth-minded owners.
So in the health club business, I'd met some people that had been in roofing.
Okay.
And they'd come to us and then they'd actually left and gone back to it, right? And my perception was always these guys that have got lines all over their face from being in the sun every day of their life, looking like typical contractors,
collar,
living in motels and bars. And that was always my outsider opinion, right? Until I started doing some research, right? Okay. And then I started talking to more and more of those guys that I developed relationships with over the years that worked for me, that had been in and out of roofing. Mm-hmm. One of them actually being one of our partners, Neil. He was a general manager for me at LA Fitness. Okay. Right. And then I'd actually left to go deal with an acquisition. And then when I came back, he wasn't working at LA anymore. Him and I connected, and I'd done some digging with some other people. And I said, hey, how much longer are you going to work for roofing companies? I'll put the money up and everything. You know roofing. I don't know the first thing about roofing. So you run the installs and the outside stuff.
Okay.
I'll handle office, money, all that kind of stuff.
All right.
And hey, truth be told, it was extra money for me. Okay. It was there was never the strategy to leave.
Okay. It's a side hustle.
Yeah.
Basically?
I was gonna I wanted to run LA Fitness. Okay. I wanted to eventually be the guy.
Okay.
And so it sort of organically happened, right? where we started the roofing, and I remember we did the first roof, and I'm like, wow, that was actually pretty easy. That was pretty cool. And then I did the math on the numbers, and I'm like, wow, this is pretty profitable, right? And then one thing led to the next, and I actually did roofing and LA Fitness for 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So I've actually only officially been in roofing full time just over 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow. So that's how it progressed, and that's how it really got started. And then, one thing led to the next, and eventually I was looking at, I'm making 3 times the money in my part-time job that I am my full-time. I went and sat with my wife, and I'm like, hey, nothing changes. There was only one downside to it. I ended a really good relationship that had been in existence for a very long time. And I had sweat equity, which was non-vested. So it was only worth something to me if there was an event, right?
Gotcha.
And that didn't happen while I was there, so I gave it up.
Wow.
So who knows what that could have been, what it would have been, but I did walk away. So it wasn't just as simple as, it's sort of, why I hung in there so long, right, was because I wanted to eventually, get some kind of benefit. Yeah.
The golden handcuffs, if you will.
Golden handcuffs, golden parachute, depending on where you're standing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a bittersweet moment, but in reality, it was very good, and definitely not a waste of time. And I'll tell you why. Because a lot of what we do today were the lessons that I gained there. Right, the lessons in multi-unit leadership, the lessons in management, the lessons in personal development, the lessons in building a team, the lessons in building a culture, et cetera, et cetera. So I was already doing it.
Right.
I just brought it to this business.
Gotcha. Yeah, I heard in another podcast you were on that you said, people say, don't you wish you started 10 years earlier? And your answer was, well, maybe, but I wouldn't have had those skills to necessarily be where I'm at today.
Sure.
I totally resonate with that.
Well, I'll give you a quick example, and hopefully it's not too long way around. When I was at LA Fitness and I wanted to become a VP, I was the top general manager. But I was one of those guys that was always sort of challenging leadership and challenging ownership, and even though I was really good, I just always had this quick to fire attitude, right? And in some ways thought I knew better, right? Okay. So I still needed to be humbled a little bit. But I remember once I went to a meeting, all the VPs are at the front of the room and all the GMs are in the room, and they were talking to us, and I just, I felt like I was better than some of them, so I challenged them all the time. Okay. And one day a guy came up to me, and one of the regionals actually, he says, I want you to try something. Next time we have a meeting and we say stuff, I want you to act in a positive way and say great idea and get the crowd going in a positive way instead of challenging it. He says, because you're going to waste your talents until you make that shift mentally. And I remember the very next meeting, I was sitting in the group and one of the guys said something and I started clapping, and then we all stood up and started clapping. It was a great idea, and so it went on. And I think what was more important is internally I felt a shift. Okay. And in some cases, our whole life people tell us things, but until we're truly ready to receive the message, right, we're not truly going to execute. So sometimes in life, that timing is so important. And I said that in that podcast that, hey, you know what? Maybe if I did do it sooner, the receiving of the feedback and the information may not have been treated the same unless I'd had those experiences. Right. So I think a lot of cases, it's not just that you had the opportunity, but it's more that you're willing to receive the opportunity and or the lessons to grow. And based on my upbringing, I probably needed to stay there a little longer to make sure that some of those things were permanent. Gotcha. Yeah.
Wow. So it was you and Neil, and he's selling roofs, and you're managing the small business at the time. What was that first roof? Like, what was that first job? You guys were knocking doors. How did that come about?
Yeah, we knocked doors. It was in McKinney. And we got this roof, and this guy said, yeah, sure. And And we
You're
just,
like, oh man, he said yes. Now
yeah,
what?
yeah, he's cool. And then, I was like, man, because at first, hey, I was like, yeah, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know, roofing. I mean, is this even really for me?
Right.
That kind of stuff. So when we got that first one, it was crazy. But one of the stories, so we started that, and then there was the first hailstorm, which was down south in Waxahachie, right? And we got the hail report, and we meet down, there's like 4 of us. We meet down at Chick-fil-A down in Waxahachie, right? At like 5:30 in the morning, right? We're eager beavers at this point, and we want to get a meal, and we're going to knock those doors the minute it's light. And how does it go if you're not first, you're last? And so we wanted to be first.
Yeah. So
we get out there, and we knock till like noon. We can't find it. No hail, no damage. Little hail, but nothing worth anything.
Yeah.
And I remember we were at lunch, and everyone's like, I guess there's nothing. Maybe we'll go back. I remember looking at Neil saying, no, we're going to stay here all day, every day. It was hell yeah, we're going to find it. I think at about 3 o'clock that afternoon, we found a street. I think we ended up doing about 26 homes on that street.
Wow.
Right? So sometimes that persistency, and I know it was only one day, but that was the beginning of the company, right? And that was our first positive major momentum, right? That built a belief system, right? And then also started setting the stage for culture, work ethic, standards, how many can you knock in a day? How many can you get? Profit margins, O&P, all those dynamics that come into it, right?
Stay the course, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I've spoken about that my whole life. I was at my last business for 20 years. So I'm just a huge believer in staying the course. Yeah. I sort of feel bad with some people that interview me because I call them popcorn. They pop all over the place, right? If you haven't been able to stay the course anywhere, how and why would this be different? Right. Because there's something internally that you're going to have to deal with there, and maybe you need to have a chat with yourself in the mirror because you can't keep jumping from company to company and it's everyone else's fault.
You can't always blame the boss or the leadership. It's got to be like, something's wrong with me.
Yeah.
Something's got to be transformed within me first.
And every now and then I give those guys an opportunity to join us, and 90% of the time it doesn't work.
Okay.
We have good intentions of people, right? We want to see the best.
Right.
And we want to give people, if we see a glimmer of hope, we want to give them an opportunity to make the change.
Yeah. Do you see in this industry that there's a lot of people that are wanting that quick hit and just that overnight success without the willingness to stay the course and persist?
Absolutely. Yeah. The minute things don't go their way, they're moving from company to company, and you see it on social media.
Yeah.
And then there's also guys that want to work different companies during different seasons.
Yeah. They're
working in one company, and some of my guys have even said, hey, I got a guy in Minnesota that wants to come work for us during the summer. And I'm like, not interested. Because all he's going to do is come to develop relationships with my guys, and then he's going to say, well, it's better here. And now you just have this thing, or vice versa, or I'm going to steal him from someone else, right? I think out of all of our guys, I think maybe 2 or 3 guys come from roofing. Okay. So I'm not out there trying to meet other people's people to hire them. I'm actually not interested in them. There's a couple of us here in Dallas that all come from the health club business. Regional guy from 24 Hour Fitness, a few LA guys, and all these guys have also, because of us, have opened roofing companies. Okay. And they've gone in the same direction, right? And we actually have sort of this pact with each other that we're not going to let our guys switch from. Okay. We're not going to commingle.
Gotcha.
Right. So what it also does is it forces a guy to stay the course because he doesn't have those options. Right. See, because he's got those relationships. We all know each other from the past industry.
Yeah.
Right. So they feel like they could tap into those relationships. But what we've done is said, no, we're not going to. Yeah. Kind of? We're not going to do that. Right. So when I see in the industry, I see it on social media, certain guys at this company, and he makes a post. I was with this company for X amount of years. I love those guys, but my new path is with this company, and you see that movement, right? And I mean, I know it's a bad example, but when you're younger and you go to the bars, right? You go to the first bar and you're like, oh, this place sucks, right? Then you go to the next one and it sucks, and you go to the next one and it sucks, and then eventually at the end of the night you're drunk and you're like, that first boss surely did have some honeys. You know, you should have just stayed at the first one, right? You should have just stayed the darn course, put the work in, stayed the darn course. Stop looking for the easy pickings. Stay the darn course. It's the only way to grow, you know?
And plus, like, you're investing in people, in their leadership, and their coaching and training. So why would you want to invest in someone for a season and they're gone? You know, that's not going to benefit anyone.
Yeah. Well, it's the same as, you know, a new company starts and then all of a sudden they're not charging overhead or they're paying a higher commission rate. We have that happening out here all the time. I mean, for those people that don't know, I mean, DFW is a shit show when it comes to roofing. I mean, it's the Wild West.
Right.
There's companies opening left and right because the barrier of entry is so low.
Yep, no licensing.
Yeah, all that stuff, right? So, you know, it's just like if there's no value there, and then all of a sudden they start, because this is what happens to us in DFW. Certain companies actively poach our guys.
Oh, yeah.
They're attacking them on social media, befriending them, you know, and then offering them better packages, right? And I'm like, number one, you can't scale, you can't grow a company on no overhead.
Right.
You can't grow a company on 5% overhead. Yeah. You can't grow a paying 60% commission. Yeah. So at some point, it's a bait and switch. So just understand what you're getting into. Right. And in most cases, I believe that through training, development, culture, and teaching, right, we can get people to make more money on our structure, even if other people have higher structures. And by the way, our structure is even with the industry. We're not high and we're not low. It's enough to, you know, pay attention to costs and grow without creating too many problems.
Right.
Yeah.
So in the industry, there's a high sales rep turnover. Churn is like is crazy, right? That's the backdoor problem, right?
Yeah.
Bring in guys, train them, they leave out the back door, they start their own. Do you guys have that, or do you have would you say you have a pretty low turnover? What's your situation?
Our turnover is very low. We have had one or two go on their own.
Yep.
It's par for the course.
Yep. It's
going to happen. It's not waterproof. But I also challenge on how long those guys will make it, right? Because if you couldn't make it as a sales guy with me, if you can't manage your own checkbook, how are you going to manage my checkbook? Right? You can't manage your own schedule. How are you going to manage a business schedule? Right? You can't, you know. So once again, it's that trap in the industry where you're a good salesperson. Oh, I'm going to go open my own roofing company, and then you go open it, and then you get into it, and yes, you do well initially. It's so easy when you're motivated. It's like a new relationship, man. It's so exciting. I mean, you
do
meet
everything right.
Yeah, come on, man. You meet someone somewhere, and they live an hour and a half away, right? And they call you and like, hey, you coming over? Yeah, I'll be there. You know, you finish work 8 o'clock at night. You drive an hour and a half. You're there 9:30 at night. You stay, and maybe you stay the night. You get up at 4 a.m. to get back in time to get to work, right?
Yep, we've all been there.
Hey, 120 days later. Hey, honey, you coming over? Babe, I had a long day at work. I'm tired. You see, it's because that newness and motivation is gone, right? And that's where everyone finds themselves. Maybe it takes longer, right? And then the other trap in this business is you can get away with it for a minute. And here's why. You're collecting all those upfront checks, right? So now what happens is even if you've managed your money poorly, you start using new money to pay for old bills because you spent it, right? And then you can switch from supplier to supplier because you may not have paid this. So now you open an account of this supplier, right? And then they do the same thing on taxes, right? So, you know, not saving for taxes. And then the first quarter of the year, they're crunching to save all their money to pay their taxes for last year, or they get an extension, and then they're playing that game. But inevitably, this whole game at some point will crash and burn, right? Unless you start buckling down and saying, hey, I'm going to bring in some professionals. I'm going to learn this shit. And you're going to convert from a door-knocking salesman to an actual businessman, right? You're going to go study some shit. Maybe you're going to go get yourself a coach. Maybe you're going to hire some professionals to do some for you. Or you're going to bring some professionals onto your team. And then, you know, you can get there. I come from an interesting background. I'm not sure that anything really blew my mind based on what I've been through. And basically been in business for 20 years. You've been through a lot of stuff, right? But in Texas specifically, when a storm hits, I mean, roofers are fighting in the streets. I mean, guys are jumping down on roofs, getting in fistfights, and
really,
it is crazy. Like people like grabbing boards and stealing boards. I mean, we got a guy recently on film going in the yards and pulling people's boards out. Yeah, just, silly stuff.
Yeah.
Like, that's the stuff that really ruins it for everyone in
Right.
the eyes of the customer.
Right.
Right? Because it's just so, how does the expression go? People get funny when there's money.
Okay.
And customers do too. But, these roofers, I mean, these guys, the whole persona, right? I've told my guys, hey, if you want to be treated like a regular contractor, then start fitting the mold.
Right.
Start getting the belly and the big beard. Not to say, don't get me wrong, I'm not prejudging. I got a lot of friends with bellies and beards. Nice people. So I'm not, I'm not bad. I'm just saying, don't,
It's how you position yourself.
Yeah, how do you position yourself?
Right.
How do you, do you wake up each day, look after yourself, look after your family, eat well, exercise, read, grow yourself like a true professional. You want to get paid like a professional, you better start acting like one.
Yeah.
Right? And it's a trap in the business because people can come into big money pretty quickly, right? And they have a false sense of who they really are.
Okay.
There's still got to be internal development, right? I mean, we had, maybe some other stuff. We had problems early on. My advice to people trying to shift from residential to commercial is know what you're doing.
Okay.
And if you don't know, don't take it on. It's not worth it.
So you guys learned that the hard way, or?
Yeah, in our year and a half, we took on a job for a high-rise downtown Dallas, and we'd probably only done like 2 commercial projects before that.
Okay.
Right, so we dove
High-rise.
Yeah, straight in. Right, we got this sucker, and first lesson, insurance. Right now, we have a process where we inspect all insurance policies and exclusions every month. Because guys get insurance and then they cancel.
Okay.
They give you the insurance certificate, just like cars. They give it to you and then they cancel.
Right.
Right? And then they go do a job for you, something goes wrong, they don't have insurance. Right? Well, we had this project go, there was an exclusion in the thing that we didn't read that was anything over four stories would be excluded on his commercial policy. Right? And then, they did one of the seams with the overlays wrong. Water got in, first rain. It's a HOA, large building. First thing you got to do is fix it. You don't have time to wait for the insurance company.
Yeah.
Insurance company hired a high-profile attorney to try and scare us.
Okay.
Right? It wasn't a monstrous size roof, but it was about a $600,000 claim.
Okay.
Right? And I had to float about $280,000 for about 2 years. Because I had to replace it out of pocket, right? And if we didn't have that money, we, either go get a loan or go out of business.
Yeah.
One of the two.
Yeah.
And then finally, I just slapped a lawsuit on our insurance company, and they paid. After they bullied us for like 2 years. Wow. Yeah, crazy stuff. So first lesson there is insurance. Do everything you can to avoid making claims on insurance, because we made 1 or 2 claims that were smaller that we should have paid out of pocket.
Okay.
And then it haunted us for a couple of years on our premium cost.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
And if you're scaling and your volume's going through the roof, that shit's costing you way more than it would have cost you to just pay for it yourself. Right?
Yep. Bigger picture.
I guess I could probably go all day on things that I see. Something that I know we were going to talk about at some point is there's not a whole lot of development taking place in the industry, specifically in organizations, but that's probably because they've never done it.
Right.
They don't know how to do it. They've never been through it. So therefore, they're trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Well, I think it starts, like you mentioned before, it's like the sales rep. Like, I'm going to go out and start my own business. That's like Michael Gerber, The E-Myth Revisited.
Yep.
First business book I ever read. And that whole technician, hey, I'm good at selling roofs. I'm going to start a roofing company.
Yeah.
Doesn't translate a lot.
No.
But if they do and they build a company, then it's like they don't necessarily have the leadership training or the business training, which I didn't either when I first started. I'm still learning those things. So I think that's what you see a lot of. And I saw it this morning. I know you've seen it. I'm on the plane, looking at Facebook, and I see this sales rep. He's like, "Hey, I just started selling roofs. Does anyone have any advice for me? Any tips?" It's like, wow, are you working for a company? Are they providing you any training, or just giving you an email address, if that, and like, go sell some roofs,
Well, we see that at a lot of these roofing conventions when we're up on these panels and the crowd gets an opportunity to ask a question, and someone will come, and bless their soul for asking a question, but most of them will ask a simple question like, how do I grow my business? I mean, that's so broad.
Yeah.
Right? Let's
need some context there. Like, where you at?
Yeah. Give me something to go on, right? It's such a broad question. And how do I get to answer that on a panel?
Yeah.
I really don't have the time
right.
to really dig into it because I don't understand your situation.
Do you think that where you're at a few years in with the success you guys have had and the fast growth is due to your outside industry experience?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't have any bad habits. I don't have anything, that's why we don't hire. I'm not saying we don't, but we hardly ever hire anyone that comes from the roofing business. We say, hire the attitude, teach them the rest.
Yep.
Right? A lot of people want to, listen, it's, and you probably know this, don't do your job. You're going to have to allocate more and more money to marketing, more and more buying your business, right?
Right.
There's a difference between buying your business and building your business organically, which you can do, right? And obviously that organic, you can do organic, but you can spend some money and build that machine,
right.
that generating machine, right? But, a lot of guys fail to train their people, right? We train all the time. We are always training. There's always a Zoom call or something that people can tap into as far as resources are concerned, right? So, and none of it's mandatory.
Okay.
It's all voluntary.
Okay.
Right? You want to learn and grow? Jump on.
Here it is, right here.
You want to learn and grow? There's a meeting taking place. Once a month, we have a manufacturer's rep coming in every single month,
Cool.
doing a training, getting people certified.
Yeah.
And when the factories open up again, we always take guys to the factories, let them understand and know everything about shingles, so that they know their product.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How about leadership and coaching and things like that? You're big on training leaders and building leaders, right? Can you talk about your philosophy there and where that comes from and how you guys do that?
Yeah, so I think it really comes back to that same thing, right? Guys get good and they don't really know, your best salesman, your top sales guy is not necessarily your best leader, right? Because they're either not organized, they suck at maybe personal discipline, they suck at all these other things, right? So what we do is we spend time with our leaders, for example, where we read through books.
Okay.
So we'll choose a book and everyone will read, and then we'll meet and we'll talk about the chapters, and then we not only do we talk about it, we talk about, hey, what are the lessons and how do we apply it to our business, right? So that we're continually developing them, right? Because unfortunately, and not just in this industry, but this happens in the restaurant business, the health club business, most industries, when a guy gets pulled out of being a GM and he becomes a multi-unit operator, and I treat that in our business like you're not selling anymore, you're a multi-person operator, right? And each one of those guys is a business, right? And you're managing each of those businesses, and that's how I want you to think about it, is you got to turn each person, each business into a profit center. So you got to ask yourself, what is all the things that person needs, the support, the knowledge, and when we talk about leadership and training them, we start thinking of some of the simple things. For example, like being a buddy and not a boss.
Okay.
Right? These are small traps that specifically in a contractor business that these guys fall into, right? Like, let's say they're traveling, right? They're always in the bar and the restaurant together at night, drinking, hanging loose, right? Now all of a sudden the next day you need a guy to do something and you're like, hey, get it done. And he's like, well, what's wrong with that guy? Right? No. You see, you made them feel like we're all buds, right? And we are, but because it's also good to know your people, know their goals, understand where they want to go. So you got to connect and get to know your people, but you can't cross that line. And how do you deal with it? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I have an 8-year-old son, and I think about that all the time because I want to be best buds with him, but I'm also his dad, and there needs to be that awareness, so.
Yeah.
Totally.
So simple leadership things that the minute someone gets put into leadership, what are the pitfalls? What are some of the things that they're going to have to pay attention to that they could be making as mistakes and not realizing it, and then find themselves in a position where now maybe their team doesn't like, trust, and respect them because they've made all these mistakes without even realizing the monster they were growing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
that trickles down into
it does.
The whole team.
It does, yeah. I spoke earlier about trying to control results instead of influencing thinking, right? You wake up and all you want to do is discuss numbers with these guys, right? But you don't know whether that guy is going through a hard time in his relationship. You don't know if his wife's about to leave him or something happened in the family or whatever it is. So try and connect with the person first and then go through some of those things, right? Okay. I was trying to think of some of the acronyms that we talk about in we've got some acronyms in redirecting and how to handle certain situations, just as we teach in sales, right? Okay. Listen, agree, isolate, overcome, reclose, right? Okay. It's steps to overcoming an objection, right? So we work through these things, and then obviously whenever guys have concerns with people on their team, a lot of times either myself or Tony, our VP of sales, will meet with them with their people, handle it, and then next time ask them to handle it, and then ask them what the lesson was, and then go through it. So we work them through all these steps in leadership with their people, so that they're not just high and dry.
And then they don't depend on you as the owner, where they're blowing your phone up every time there's an issue, right? They're able to solve that.
Well, now the quick one, small one in management. Someone calls you with problems. What do?
Ask them how they would solve it.
Well, you ask the average person, what would you do? A guy calls you up, he asks you how to do this, this, and this, right? Most people are like, oh, this, and this, and this. No, you got to feed it back, right? Be the mirror, feed it back, force them to try and solve it themselves. If they can't solve it, then jump in and redirect, right? Okay. So, these kind of things, because otherwise your phone rings all the time, because your people need you so much. And these are very simple concepts that maybe you and I, because we've been in business and doing stuff for a long time, that we're just familiar with. But maybe that salesperson that's never been in leadership or management, they don't think about some of these small things. They actually find themselves, and you hear this a lot in business today, they find themselves being trapped to their business because they feel like the business can only operate with them there, right? An example I give is, I was far more stressed at 20 people than I am at 120.
Really?
Yeah.
Because you were having 20 direct reports?
I had less leadership, less management, and I was doing too much myself. Right. When we first started, I operated out of one of those old school checkbooks. The big one?
Yeah. The three
and I wrote I wrote the sub's name and the amount in the stubs, and I'd do payroll myself on Saturday mornings, and I'd go through all my stubs. Okay. That was my accounting when I first started, right? Terrible.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure it was going to be this big business yet, right? So I was just like, write a check. It's all cool, right? So we got to work through some of those stages. But yeah, I mean, listen. There's a lot of resources out there. There's a lot of leadership books. There's a lot of management books. There's a lot of coaches. There's a lot of people that you can hire, even if you feel like you don't have the ability to do that right away. Then hire someone, learn from them, and then mimic what they taught you. Right.
Shorten the learning curve.
Sure. Yeah, I'm all about it. Yeah. At one point, I met with all our suppliers, and I said, we have to move from transactional to relational, right? So right now we engage in transactions, meaning I buy a shingle from you at a price and you give me the shingle. That's a transaction, right? But there's no growth there, right? So any relationship that we have moving forward can't be transactional, right? Whether it's with a PA, whether it's with attorneys, whether it's with suppliers, any vendors, you name it. If they're not taking a keen interest in helping me grow my business, I can't buy from you anymore. But it's a two-sided coin.
Right. You're going to be loyal to them.
I am. I don't go bid everything out every time I get a job. I'm loyal to them. I want to do the same with manufacturers. I want to do the same with suppliers. But I want that growth, meaning you guys have relationships that I don't have. I need introductions.
Yeah.
I want to grow my business, right? But I'm going to reciprocate, meaning if I get better and bigger, people will listen and say, wow, I want to listen to that guy, and I want to do what that guy's doing. And if he's buying from those guys, they've got to be good.
There you go.
Right? So I've already referred a ton of business over to our suppliers from existing contractors, because that relationship of growth is a two-way street.
That's perfect.
I'm not greedy, just serve me and bow down to me. And, you know, like I've even told the guys, I'm not interested in going to lunch all the time or going to happy hour and drinking all the time. I want to know how we're going to grow my business.
Right.
And I'm going to help you grow your business.
So that's an intentional decision that you make. It's not like, oh, I wish my suppliers would treat me better. I wish they would, you know, get back to me or make the drops on time. It's intentional. I like that.
Yeah.
So you mentioned leadership, training, support, all that sort of thing. Where do you find your people? That's another big question in the roofing industry. Like, no one wants to work. People are staying home. I can't find people. If I could only find the right people, we'd be 10xing this year. What's the secret, Kirt?
So I don't know if I said this in one of the others, but the first thing I say to anyone that wants to grow a business is look in the mirror, right? And I talk about skill set and character. Okay. And this may even answer one of your past questions about surprising in the industry. Yeah. A lot of shady people in this business. Yeah. And they'll screw you over and stab you in the back fast, right? And I'm just a firm believer that we talk about people choose to follow you. That's a gift to you. It's not something bestowed on you because of your title. Right. Right? And as long as you start understanding that and truly acting that out, just like mission statement and core values, everyone gets them, but then they go on the wall and then they get forgotten about. They don't truly hire, fire, coach according to those values. Do you see what I'm getting at? Right? Totally.
It feels good to do that exercise in January. And,
it feels good and it's all cool and you got them all up, but we're not living by it. And then everyone talks about it too. They're like, well, that's not in line with the core values, so that was a load of bullshit, right? Right. We really got to work. Now, it's not perfect, and I share this with people. Just because you do that exercise, you may get challenged the most right after you do that exercise, right? That doesn't mean like the minute someone steps out of line, you're going to say, okay, you're done. Yeah. We're still human beings. Let's take a deep breath. Let's try and work through it and figure it out. But at least it's like a northern light, right? You lift it up and you look at it and you say, how are we doing? Right? We can compare ourselves to it. We say, how are we doing, right?
Are we in alignment with our values?
There you go, right? So skill set and character, right? So, you know, as long as we understand that, because a lot of people have the skill set in this business. That's what I see. They got the skill set. They know everything about roofing. Like, they love to actually sit around and boast about, well, I was doing this and I was doing that and this angle and that angle. I don't know shit about those angles, okay? I don't need to know shit about those angles, right? And I don't need to sit around talking about those things. So a lot of people have the skill set. Then you have some people that have the character, but they don't have the skill set. They're not as gifted, they're not as talented, they don't have all that kind of stuff, right? But they got good character, right? And they go hand in hand, because if you got good character, you're a good guy to go have a beer with. If you got skill set and no character, then you're really just a shady salesperson. Does that make sense? Yeah. You need them both. Yeah. And I think the sooner people can realize that, you know, just stop screwing each other over, stop lying, cheating, stop being so self-centered, and really just start caring for your people and you know. So I talk about organic growth in our team. Rabbits. If at the end of the day people know that the leaders, it's real and it's true, it's not a show, it's not an act. Leaders live by it, not perfectly, because people are going to falter, but most of the time are doing their best to live up to those standards, then I call it attraction power. Okay. People will be attracted to you, right?
So their friends, their colleagues, their family.
Well, what we do is we focus on putting everything on social media. Yep. Everything. Right?
That's why we're here today.
Yeah. If you're friends with a lot of our people, we put everything on social media, right? And what happens is you start building this thing, this feel, this vibe that everyone, whenever they see linear roofing, they think, whew, right? They think, wow, those guys are just like killers. They don't look the same. Yeah. They don't act the same, right? They're doing great things, right? That doesn't happen by chance.
Right.
That's all by design, right? It's not, no one's getting lucky here, right? And as soon as people can realize that, and I said this in some of our events, everything adds, everything takes away. Nothing's neutral, okay. Right? Earth's rotating, you're standing still, you're going backwards. You got to get moving, nice. Right? Stop standing still, because if you are standing still, you're going backwards, right? So when we think about our leadership, and we think about recruiting, and we think about growing the business, it all counts, right? So some people say, yeah, but do you run an ad to hire people? I think one or two of my team leads may put a thing on Indeed here and there, but as a company, we do nothing. Mm-hmm. We don't actively try and recruit, right? All our recruits come to us mm-hmm. through our social media, how we treat people, right. Success rabbits, yep. Where people are sitting around because they spend so much time on this freaking phone now, yeah. Right? Everyone's glued to it. Yep. And every time they get on their wall and this linear roofing, these guys, man, this looks fun. Yeah. This looks cool, man. Next thing you know, I get a message saying, hey, how can I join your team?
Yeah. That's a dream come true for most owners.
Oh, yeah. But it's by design.
Yeah.
Right? So, and you probably know a lot more about this than me, but one of the other things we coach our people on is that your social media is not a private life anymore. It's just not. And if you're in roofing and you're in the club and you're popping bottles and shit and you're like putting that on your social media, not a good look. Yep. Just not a good look. Because when you leave a customer's house, they plug your name into social media and they check you out. Yeah. And they know what kind of person they're dealing with, right? And I'm not saying you can't do that stuff. I mean, everyone can have a good time every now and then, but just don't be putting all that stuff all over social media, right? The other thing we teach our people is that if you consistently post business on your social media, you get tuned out.
Yeah.
People want...
I've learned that actually myself.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll post too much education and you get crickets. And like, all right.
People need to connect with you. Yeah. People follow you first. Yeah. I remember I had this one lady start with me and she had this Instagram account with all these followers, right? And then she sent me a screenshot. She's like, started my business account now. And I'm like, X that. She's like, why? Like, people don't want to follow a business. Yeah. It's nothing exciting about following a business that may want to sell you something. Right. Right? So what you got to do is lead a good life. Yep. Put it on social media. And every now and then throw in some stuff so people know what you're doing. Mm-hmm. You do a cool project, put it on there. You do something cool with your family, put it on there. Because they get to follow a character, an individual, as opposed to a business, right? So with all these things coming together, right, we get this influx of talent that want to work for us. So much so that we don't even hire everyone anymore. We're at a point now where we do 10, 15 interviews a week. Okay. Organically. Wow. Right? Just by doing the right thing. Looking after people. Doing what you say you were going to do. Treating customers right. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, it's not a perfect world. It's not like there's no problems. Right. They come, but we fix them quick. It's selling without selling. Yeah. People are too focused on selling.
Everyone.
Hey, think about it. You go somewhere and you meet a bunch of people and it's like, hey, what do you do? What do you do? Yeah, I do roofing. Hey, do you have a house? Maybe I can inspect your roof. Yeah. I never do that. Yeah. I never do that, right? I want them to get to know me first. Mm-hmm. I want to get them to a point where they basically say to me by the end of the night, hey, you want to come check out my roof? Right. Right? I don't have to solicit, right? I just have to get people to know me. I'll give you another one. So in this business, everyone's like, oh, it's the power of the referral. It's the power of the referral. It's you knock the house, you get the roof, and then we call it a six-pack, right? So here's the roof, you knock these two and these three, because we come from the health club business, we call it a six-pack. All right, nice. Six-pack everything. Yep. Every install six-packed, That's the deal, right? And get your referrals, right? Do such a good job with this customer that they want to refer you everyone and walk you over to the neighbors. I love that. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
Here's where most companies are missing the boat. You should be doing the exact same thing with your people.
There you go.
That's the point. The point is, if I look after you so much and you love me so much and you think this is the best place to be, what are you going to do?
Tell all your friends.
You are.
Or they're just going to, your friends are just going to see it.
They're going to see it.
This guy's killing it.
And they're like, hey, can I come work with you guys?
Yeah.
And we get that all the time.
Yeah, I bet.
We got so many people that are friends with each other that are here because they saw what their buddy was doing, right? And they're like, man, I want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
It's like back in the health club business, when I walked into a club and a store was suffering. And the first thing the guy would always say is, I just can't seem to find a team. I said, well, it's depressing in this place. I wouldn't want to work for you either. Right? It all starts with you. I mean, no one wants to work for you.
Right.
Like, why is it so hard? Either you're not training them, you can't get anyone to a level of success, and that's why you can't build a team.
Right.
So when you find yourself without having these people coming to you, it means that you can't get your existing people to be successful. So instead of trying to go on a recruiting campaign to hire a whole lot more people,
Right.
you should look internally and say, where do I need to grow first and get this where it needs to be so that I can start bringing more people in that I'm gonna run through my system.
Yep.
And spit them out the other side, and they're going to be a success because now they're going to start, right? So another thing you'll see on social media, we're always doing social events with our people. We're always connecting with our people, right? They're not just numbers. And when we continually connect with them, and we spend money on it. We throw money at it,
Yeah.
right? But I still believe that there's so much value in their mental state. Because everything in this life's a mind game. It is. When the mind is right, everything comes together.
Yeah.
When the mind is wrong, it all falls apart.
Yeah.
So the more time we can spend getting the mind right, the more our people do it voluntarily.
Right.
They don't feel forced. That's another thing I get from, I'll keep talking about this. It's another thing I get from company owners that keep asking me, like, how do you get you guys to work on Saturdays?
They gotta wanna.
Well, think about it this way. If their mind was right, you wouldn't have to force them to work on Saturdays. They would want to. You want to know why? Because Saturday and Sunday is the best low-hanging fruit out there.
Yeah.
Because everyone's at home.
Totally.
So when their mind is right, they want to do it.
Right.
But everyone's trying to figure out how to force their team to work on a Saturday. They should want to do it because they get the best return
Totally.
on a Saturday. Or even a Sunday. Hell, I even tell guys, take Thursday, Friday off if you want.
Yeah.
One other thing, and I'm going on tangents, I tell my guys, work 3.5 weeks and take a 4-day vacation every month.
Cool.
Take your wife, take your kids, get a long weekend. Do it every month. But when you're working, sprint. Sprint, take the time. Sprint, take the time. The beauty about that is you'll enjoy those moments more. You want to know why? Because you're not worried about the finances.
Yeah.
Right? There's nothing worse than going on vacation towards the end of the vacation, because I know I've been there. I come from a poor upbringing. There's nothing worse than finishing the vacation, coming back with credit card debt.
Yeah.
It's the worst feeling on earth.
Yeah.
You know, maybe everyone's happy because you bought stuff and you're feeling good, but
Inside,
you
you're
personally inside as the breadwinner or the man of the house, you're stressed.
Right.
Because you're in debts up to the eyeballs. You know, but anyway.
So you coach your team on this.
We coach them on, we coach them on so much private stuff. I believe in an expression that says there's no such thing as business problems, just personal problems that roll into the business.
I've heard that before,
Yeah, so we coach home a lot, right? I get guys coming in presenting on self-employment pensions. I get guys coming in and talking on all these topics because I want to help these guys grow, right? Awesome. We sit with them on how to buy their first house and what are the pitfalls, and I'll even sit with them and run through all the math on how to do that stuff and get them to a point like even some of our guys I've sat with now know exactly what they need to save between now and a certain time period to have what they need so that they're depressurized when they're into that. I won't let any of my guys, well, I don't want any of my guys, not that I won't let them. I don't want anyone buying a house without 20%. I don't want any of my guys paying property mortgage insurance. I don't want, guys getting in and realizing that they got a house, now they can't get furniture, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we work through, a lot of those kind of things. Another, big trap in this whole mind game is going home and sharing your day with your loved one every day. Without you realizing it, you're building a monster. Because you go home and you just feed negativity every day. Okay. And that person that loves you is only going to act emotionally. And then they're going to build resentment up to those people that you're talking about. Meaning those are just business moments. Business is not smooth every day. Right. Shit's going to happen.
Oh, every day.
You go home, you feed the beast. Negativity all the time. Yeah. Right?
Because that's what we're wired to do, is focus on the negative.
Yeah, you come home, you're tired. Your wife says to you, "Oh, baby, what's wrong? I had a shit day, Kirt was on my ass today," or whatever it is, or this went wrong and I did this wrong and this whatever, and, and over time, this person's building up this negativity, right? And then all of a sudden, every day you come home, I don't know why you deal with that. Yeah. You're better than that. Yeah. And then...
Because there's no context there.
No. And it's coming from someone you love. Yeah. Right? So now you start buying into it. And then eventually your attitude at work gets really bad. And you don't know why. Right. Now you're caught up in this headspace where it's all negative. And but you created it. You created the monster yourself, right? So I'm not saying you can't go home and talk to your spouse about some stuff, but just be very cautious about sharing things that really are just day-to-day stuff that happen in business that really aren't going to go on too long, right? It was something that happened in the moment and it's gone, right? But instead you're building a wall, and the wall's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and eventually you can't see over it anymore. Right? And now you can't see clearly. And then, a lot of times when people are being irrational, the leadership or the management looks at them and says, "Oh, what's wrong with that guy? The wall's too high. Yeah. The logic's out the window.
You can see it, huh?
It's gone."
So be intentional, again.
Yeah.
With that relationship.
Yeah.
How do you do it? Your wife, you're a hard-charging guy.
Yeah.
You're working a lot. You've got a lot going on, big company. How do you kind of have the have-it-all lifestyle where you have a great marriage, business, traveling, you're healthy?
So...
not to inflate your head too much.
No. I was going to say, social media is a highlight reel.
Yeah, totally.
I hope everybody knows that, right? Because we got to, sometimes my wife's friends' husbands, look at me like, "You bastard, make me look bad." I'm like, that's the highlight reel, man. Yeah. I think any relationship, as long as everybody understands that it's a two-way street, right? And everyone always has to have skin in the game. And I think that's the balancing act, right? So I'm in a couple of private mastermind groups and stuff, and sometimes it's a bunch of business owners in a room that are sharing ideas. And one of the topics that comes up quite a bit is the work-life balance, and having the wife on board with the new business, or the working hours and these kind of things. And I've always shared with guys that, number one, us guys, we get caught up in this. I'm the breadwinner and I'm bringing home the bacon, and I'm doing the job and these kind of things, right? And to some degree, it's selfish, because it's not just about you and your career. Right. It's about your wife and the kids and their existence and their life and where they're going and how they're growing too. And we tend to forget about that because we get so sidetracked with making money and building a career, right?
I've been guilty of that many times, yeah.
Yeah, I think all of us have made this mistake. I only do these things through lessons of my own. I didn't make this shit up, right?
You read them in a book.
No, I didn't. No, this is just through my own experiences, right? Like a lot of people say, "Hey, it seems like you spoil your wife," and I say, "Well, if I don't, someone else will." Yeah. So I'm going to spoil her, right? And I guess the biggest lesson that I've shared with those guys in those rooms is that A, it's not just about you, and the sooner you can realize that, the better off you're going to be. B, make sure that they share in the wins and the spoils.
Yeah.
Right? Because what do guys do? They start doing better, then they go get themselves a nicer car.
Yeah.
Right? Or now they go get themselves the new golf clubs.
Yeah.
Or, these kind of things, right? And it's like, the wife's just at home being supportive.
Right.
Right? But let her enjoy, maybe pick her up one day and say, hey, babe, let's go to the mall, let's grab lunch, whatever it is, and say, any store, anything you want. Any dress, we got an event coming up next week, let's get you a dress, right? You got to, while you got to keep the negativity away, you got to make them feel like they're part of this growth, right, and that there's also benefit for them.
Right. And time and money, and obviously it's not just about money, it's
spending
time.
It's both. So before I got married, I made an agreement with my wife, and I said, I will not develop a hobby that I do on Sundays.
Okay.
So I'm not going to start golf, and then that one free day that I got, I'm going to go golfing.
Gone for 6 hours.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to come home and put the TV on and watch sports all day.
Right.
I'm not going to do that stuff. I give you that day, meaning whatever you want to do. And that takes effort, because sometimes I've had a long week, and the last thing I want to do is go do something that my wife wants to do on a Sunday that just doesn't seem appealing to me. But it's, once again, this is a two-way street.
Right,
this is not just about Kirt, right? And I think when people can really learn and create a better balance there on making spouses feel more important, making them part of the wins, part of the spoils, you'd be amazed what they'll let you do. And I don't mean that let you do negatively,
right,
but give you more freedom. For example, at one point I said to my wife, I said, don't ask me when I'm going to be home. I said, well, what do you mean? Know this, I'll always be home as soon as I can.
right,
Because the problem is, by design, if I tell you 6 and I get busy and I get home at 7, every minute past 6, you're getting more and more annoyed.
resentful of the business.
Yeah. All these kind of things, right?
Yeah.
But that takes a lot of work and discipline, you see, because a lot of guys, they may say that, and then they finish work, and one of the guys wants to grab a drink, now they go grab a drink, blah, 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 and then they're finally at home on a Sunday, and now they're clicking channels, right? It takes a lot of discipline on your part, right, to make sure that you keep that balance.
Yep.
Right? It's not just, a bed of roses. And also don't think you could just buy everything and make it all fine. Because that's the mistake that people make with kids.
Yeah.
When they're younger, right? It's this trap, because you want to give them everything, right? But you don't want to, you want them to earn it. You want them to
create a monster. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have belief, I call it, it's not necessarily the amount of time, it's the impact of the time. Right? So I'd rather go on less vacations a year, but make those vacations extremely impactful, meaning extreme.
Yeah.
Go to a destination across the world, or, and save for it. Make that so impactful, right? People talk about kids, right? Sometimes some guys that are failing use their family, I hate to say it, as their excuse. Like, I got to go home to my family. I got to go home to my family. I got to go home. Okay, 2-year-old, what's their attention span? 5 minutes?
Yeah.
5 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. So every night you go home, are you spending impactful time with your son, or are you saying you just need to go home because you log in the hours? Yeah. I call it commitment versus compliance.
Oh, I like that.
Right?
Yeah.
So we talk about this in the business too. We talk about, are you in a state of committed to winning, or are you in a state of compliance? Meaning you got a checklist and you've done these things so you feel like you've done your job.
Yep. Right?
That is compliance, right? We've got to get committed to our process, committed to ourselves, committed to our family, committed to winning, and we're going to start seeing the better version of ourselves, right? Instead of this state of compliance, right? I hate that. I saw it a lot in corporate America.
Yeah.
Because people become numb. So it's not about winning anymore. It's not about being your best. It's just about, I got to be there from 8 to 5.
Right.
And I got to figure out what I'm going to do between those hours.
Right.
And I'm going to probably try and get away with as little as possible.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to collect the paycheck.
After the break, we'll wrap up with Kirt's insights on success, managing a growing team, and the stress that goes along with it, and how Kirt stays sharp with his personal and professional development that enables him to grow leaders inside their team.
So I do have a coach, Ryan Stuman.
Cool.
From Apex.
Yep, I'm in Apex.
Yeah.
Just joined last week, actually.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Good. And I think Ryan only has maybe 4 personal clients. I'm one of them.
Cool.
And a lot of people say, you know, yeah, I don't know about this, I don't know about that, and I got to pay the money and this and that and this and that. But I think, you know, at some point, as a business owner, where's my accountability coming from? Because sometimes as the boss, you tend to sort of keep everyone at bay and no one really holds you accountable, right? And we're all humans, so we can sometimes get into a slump, and sometimes, you know, things can happen, and sometimes you can even, you know, you could even be, you know, a lot of people say, hey, you know, trying to get there is difficult, but sometimes managing success is also difficult, right? And I talk about that in our leadership here. So I'll give you some quick balances. So a guy comes, he's got no money. So now I got to work him through habits, discipline, all these kind of things. Then I get him there. And then he starts making more money, right? And then because he's never had much in his life, he wants to get all the blingy things and get that out of his system. So he goes and does all those things, and I try and coach him through that stuff, right? Then eventually we get him to a point where maybe he buys a house and maybe he's got no debts anymore. He's got 100, 200 grand positive cash flow in the bank account. Now I got to start dealing with the pressure of success and coaching them through those things. So there's always a different level that we're working at. Some people think, oh, you could just treat someone right and do a couple of things and they're done. No, everyone is at different levels, even in levels of success. There's no such thing as, and you probably know this, there's no such thing as being successful and now you've made it.
Yeah.
Because being successful brings another whole different set of problems.
Problems don't go away, right?
No, they don't. And in some ways, it brings on much bigger problems and more stress. But I got to tell you, I'd rather be stressed about the winning than the losing.
The good problems.
They are. They're problems, but they're good problems. So we got to navigate. We got to navigate people through those problems. Cool. So some people say to me, well, why do you have a coach? Because, you know, you do well and all the rest of it. And I'm like, well, sometimes you connect with all these other business owners and they're sharing the stuff that they're going through that you never really get to share with anyone on your team, right? So you can go connect and relate.
Yep.
Not only that, coaches can shrink time.
Yep.
Right?
I'm a huge believer in that, yeah.
Yeah, so if you don't know how to do it, I want to go connect with someone that knows how to do it, learn from them how to do it, so that I could shrink time and get to my destination quicker.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure, we don't have time to make all the mistakes.
No. One of my favorite sayings is, ground can be recovered, but time never.
Nice.
Napoleon Bonaparte.
Awesome.
Right? War.
Yeah.
Right? We can recover the ground, but we cannot recover the time.
Yeah.
Right? So the more you can put in your life to save on time and get places quicker and be more effective and efficient, hell, get yourself a coach. Whether it's a coach for marketing, whether it's a coach for how to do something that you're just not an expert at, you should absolutely get one. You're sort of, you know, denying yourself the ability. You can't do it all yourself.
Professional athletes have coaches.
Of course they do.
At the highest level of their sports.
Absolutely. Right? So left to your own devices, are you being as accountable as you need to be to yourself and your family? And would it benefit you to have someone else nudging you as well? Right. And believe it or not, you learn. You learn stuff you didn't know.
Yeah.
And then when you're in a group like that, you also learn from multiple people. Yeah. And you pick up multiple things. And then there's also an expression in Apex that we talk about that's alignment over assignment. You know, it's similar to that, trying to control results instead of influencing thinking. Assignment, everyone's was so focused on the assignment. But how about we get more focused on the alignment? Because you'd be amazed what opportunities that will bring if you find yourself in the right circles with the right people doing the right things. right? How does that expression go? If you spend enough time around me, I may brainwash you into believing you're a superstar.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know, and when you're in those groups like that, more often, the more you believe. And the more time you spend in that space, I talk about two things. I talk about a lot of things. How much time are you spending in the glass is half full zone versus the glass is half empty zone? And the more time you spend in there, time under tension, right? Exercise, diamonds, time under tension, time under the belt.
Yep.
The more time under tension, the better we're going to get. So we put ourselves in these positions with coaches and other like-minded people to spend more time in that zone so that we can grow.
Yeah.
But when you don't go join these things and you don't go get a coach, or you don't have someone else to expand that thinking, or even if you sometimes, because at first, sometimes you're not trusting. So you're like, this guy's going to take my money.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm really going to get true value out of it. You know, so it's natural to be like that initially.
Skeptical.
Do you see what I'm getting at? But the more time you spend, eventually you're thinking, okay, well, yeah, maybe I can do this.
Yeah.
And
that's the ROI right there.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't quantify it right away, but it's there, right? Because some people have said, hey, are you getting a lot of roofing business out of it? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Like, well, why are you doing it? Because it dramatically impacts what I do in the roofing business.
Right.
And that has an ROI.
Totally.
For example, we just had one of those company events. I had world-renowned speakers at that event that pay $20, $40, $50, $80,000 to come speak. Through the alignment, I didn't pay $1.
Awesome.
So what's the ROI?
Yeah.
Because I was able to give back to my people. Remember the whole referral thing? I'm giving back to my people, right? There's a huge ROI on that.
Yeah. You're leveling up 120 people over the course of a day or two.
So to answer your question, yes, I do. I have had small thinking. I have had moments of weakness, and by spending more time in these zones with these people, with people that know more about certain things than me, the more I raise my game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same way.
And I got to say this for everyone listening, because a lot of people get caught up in this. They're like, yeah, don't you make enough money? You got it wrong. It's not about the money. It doesn't matter if I got 500 million in the bank or whatever. I still want to be my best.
Yeah.
So even if we're making money, by me still pushing and wanting to be better and to grow doesn't mean I'm chasing more money.
Chasing a better version of yourself.
That's it.
Yeah.
I just want to grow. I just want to get better. I just want to improve. And the way that I do it is to focus on making others better. Because when I make others better, I have to grow myself to make them better.
It's all about getting 1% better every day, becoming the leader that you need to be in order to grow leaders within your organization and in your sphere of influence. And Kirt is someone that exemplifies that. He lives it every day, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to have sat down with him to have this conversation. So if you like this, drop a comment below, share it with someone, take a screenshot of it, share it on your Facebook and Instagram stories. Our purpose is to equip people and companies with the tools to transform and grow. And we're lucky enough to have a platform where we can attract leaders like Kirt to share the knowledge and have that impact with hundreds or thousands of other people in our industry and beyond. Be sure to like and subscribe to the Nailed It podcast wherever you listen to your premium audio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to make sure that you continue to get valuable content and interviews from leaders just like Kirt. We'll talk to you soon.